welcome to today's episode of Ashling's Health Show. I'm really excited, so excited to be introducing you to Kemi, who is just a powerhouse of a birth keeper and birth educator, and has been so instrumental in my journey, and I've been learning so much from her. So thank you so much, Kemi, for taking the time out of your busy schedule for coming on here today.
Thank you for having me. I really loved having an invite from you, and yeah, it's exciting. And we have been talking a bit behind the scenes of everything, and I'm just in awe of you and your choosing and where you're doing that choosing, the environment in which you're doing it. And yeah, feel very honoured to be invited on. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. So for those who don't know you yet, you were practicing as an independent midwife. And decided to leave that system. So can you give us a kind of backstory as to how that came about?
I would have stayed forever an independent midwife. The independent midwives that mentored me and the ones that I have as peers are a phenomenal bunch of women, sometimes a bit difficult. They say, like, you know, trying to organise independent midwives is like trying to herd cats. And yeah, they're right. But I loved I felt like I was in good company, and, you know, learned and shared some amazing information about not messing birth up. Are we allowed to swear?
Oh yeah, totally.
I'll still try and keep it out of there. Yeah. Might sneak in, because I'm very passionate about families having the best care. Like, if you're going to be there, be the best, be useful, do no harm. If you can't do that, don't be there at all, because actually childbirth is not a medical event. Occasionally it could benefit from somebody who understands what a big blood loss is, or any of those things, but actually without interruption it usually unfolds without a hitch. And even if there is a hitch, in inverted commas, it can be usually dealt with common sense, you know, like a baby that's taking a little while to come to once it's born. If you hold the baby face down, then the baby's got an opportunity to open its lungs more easily because of gravity, and they can clear their throats more easily because their faces are pointing downwards. And, you know, it's like if you had a toddler that was choking on something, you wouldn't lean it back, you would lean it forward. So there's a lot about birth care which is basic common sense. However, sadly, because we've been groomed into compliance, doing as we're told, and that the person in the white coat and the badge knows more than me, we have abdicated our responsibility to ourselves and our families when it comes to our health, including childbirth. And we've outsourced, is the word that my daughter-in-law uses, and she said we literally outsourced our health, and it's with catastrophic consequences, because now more and more people are realising that obstetricians are not experts in childbirth. They're experts in surgery and giving medication, etc. And sadly, midwives are no longer what we used to have as midwives. They are now obstetric nurses. They have literally given away their birthright, their calling, in exchange for a salary and some standing in the maternity services. So where does that leave women like you, who actually know that you've got this, that you are carrying a healthy baby, that you are healthy yourself, how to maintain your health, you know how to reclaim your health. Your journey has been one of reclaiming your health, which is an even more powerful education of the journey. So I don't know what you asked me, went off on one, but how I ended up being here and where I am now is called a birth keeper. And I call myself a birth keeper. I awarded myself that title after many years of finding out what birth keeping is. Birth keeping when you're in the birth space. So you can have birth keepers that are nutritionists, you can have birth keepers that are reflexologists or homeopaths, or birth trauma specialists. They're all birth keepers, but the birth keeper in the birth space, that person, which is what I was becoming all the time, was an independent midwife, is somebody who absolutely knows how to facilitate physiological birth, how to stay quiet, how to stay out of the room confidently using your smells, sense of hearing, how to wade in with your hands to save the day on the very rare occasions that you need to do that. You need to be able to know if a baby chooses to come breech, you need to know how to not mess it up. If you've got a hidden twin, suddenly, you know, a woman gives birth and you're leaving the cord intact, you know, waiting for the cord to go white, etc. And then, you know, the placenta may or may not come, but then she starts to use exertion again, and how to suddenly recognize, oh no, she's not bringing the placenta, she's bringing another baby. You need to know how to act appropriately in that, if that second baby happens to be breech, you know. So it's all of those things. As a birth keeper, I'm not setting the bar too high to say we need to be knowing these things or on the path to knowing these things. So I was a mother, then I became a doula, then realizing that women were getting hurt whilst I was watching vicarious abuse. So I said, I need to be the lead person in the birth room, other than the midwife, second to the mother. So then I became a midwife. And then when I realized that midwives are obstetric nurses within the established maternity system, I became an independent midwife, was mentored by independent midwives. So finally was a safe pair of hands in the birth space for any kind of birth. And then I haven't been at a triplet birth yet, but it's the early days.
Yeah.
And then I decided, no, not I didn't decide. The Nursing and Midwifery Council, in collusion with another private midwifery company, worked together to ensure that the insurance that independent midwives had was ruled insufficient or not adequate, so that we couldn't work in the birth room. And there the independent midwives were just eliminated, just like that. And we'd fought and fought and fought and fought and fought. But yeah, no longer able to be in the birth space. So we can be there up until like labour's established, but then we have to go, and we can't go back until the placenta has been born, or I think 3 hours after birth. It's all kept very lucid to keep us all frightened. And yeah, you know, ultimately it wasn't a choice to not be an independent midwife. I was left no choice, because if I was to stay in the birth room, I couldn't be on the register without insurance to be in the birth room. So I deregistered, and then once I deregistered, I realised, oh my God, I should have done it all along.
I know.
I should have been a birth keeper all along.
But in a way, it was like it was leading you to that point. And I think, you know, now you're so out there as an educator and really on the forefront of this movement. I feel it is like a global movement that's happening.
It is global, and I've resisted a lot of things, like it being a movement. I didn't think it was. I didn't think I was at the leading edge of it, not at all. I didn't think it was going global, which it is. So I don't get me wrong, physiological birth is happening in loads of countries around the world, but it's kind of seen as the poor grubby sister that needs to be kept in the back garden kind of thing. It wasn't seen as the golden shining gem that it is. And I think that is what's new. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, because I think we've been so overly domesticated or overly civilized, or whatever way you want to say it. It's almost like that primitive wild nature that would have been there in our ancestors has been dampened down in us. And I feel, for me anyway, it's like that reclaiming of that, and but not doing it so like, because before it was through the lens of, oh, because they didn't have medical intervention, and you know.
That's right, lucky us, we've got loads of medical intervention now. Like, no, it's like the worst thing that's happened to childbirth. It's the worst thing. The worst thing is them putting midwives, in inverted commas, underneath obstetricians, is in the hierarchy. So the worst thing, how could you put, they're two different perspectives. Yeah, the obstetricians, largely, you've got some great obstetricians, but they're taught that, you know, women are broken, fallible bodies, you know, with a broken, fallible system of birth that needs fixing by their machines and their scalpels and their pharmaceuticals. Can be, you know, denying the power and the truth and the health that comes with physiological birth. It's like the worst thing that could have ever happened to our society. It's absolutely the worst thing. And our health is down the toilet, like, because of it. You know, our children are born health impaired. It's a disaster. So I'm really glad that people are beginning to wake up to that. And, you know, like, it's not the women that don't have the resources or they don't have this, it's the women that are sitting down reading, that have agency, that ask questions, that push back, that say no. It's those women that are running with this, and I love that. I love it.
Yeah, because I started doing all my preparations long before I ever even got pregnant.
Wow.
You know, to start diving in and start unpacking all of that, because I knew I couldn't go into it blind.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Because I stumbled blindly into motherhood. It's like I couldn't have been more blind. I'd been obsessed with childbirth from the age of 15, and yet at 24, it was so easy for them to sabotage my birth. They didn't even break a sweat. It wasn't even a bead of sweat on their brow as they offered the coercion that I so readily accepted, and sabotaged the birth of me and my son. For like, he's managed to heal his gut now and heal his eczema, but he was 25 before it was done completely. Yeah, you know, it's so much to fix.
Well, I really think that most people don't realize that it is an issue, you know, as in, because it's so standard. It's like, it's what you do. You go to your prenatal appointments, you do all the things, you do all the checks, you do all the scans, and then whatever way it's going to go, whether you're induced or if you're going to end up having a C-section, or, you know, you're as lucky to have a healthy baby.
Oh yeah, translated, oh well, you're alive, aren't you? You're both alive.
You're both alive.
Yeah. What a low bar to set.
I know.
For something that happened naturally. Like, up until, I'm the first woman in my line of all the hundreds of thousands of women throughout eternity to need surgery to give birth. And the only reason why I needed surgery is because I was induced. If I'd waited for spontaneous labour, he'd have been born in the healthiest way possible. But I didn't. And I'm the first person. Imagine, that's infamy. That's infamy, you know? And because my ancestors, how many hundreds of years of them were giving birth in a barn full of, you know, 20 other slaves, without obstetrics, you know, without pain relief.
Yeah.
And then it's me that ends up, you know, needing everything to save my baby after he'd been pounded with synthetic oxytocin for nearly 3 days. So I'm it's wonderful that I went through it, because now I understand when people capitulate to things that don't make sense, because I was that person. I don't judge. Like, I try and say, wake up, like, don't do what I did, but I won't ever judge you. How can I? You know? I
know. But I think like what we were saying before we started recording, it really comes back to, as you were saying, this kind of outsourcing of our health, outsourcing of our power and our instinct. And I think that's really what it comes back to. Like, we have to reclaim that, because otherwise we're just perpetuating the systems that we can see are not serving us. How do we disengage from that? Like, how do we start to step out of that system? You know, and that's the biggest part of the whole thing.
But that's why people like you, who have done it for other reasons, there's somebody, Ella Mills, Deliciously Ella, she found healing of her own health condition, POTS. She had POTS. So she found healing of that with lifestyle and with what she put in her mouth. So it made sense that when they were trying to lead her down the established, normalized route of birth sabotage and saving the day with surgery, which is what she sees a lot of her friends going through, she did what you did, basically, like saying, well, no, I'm sure this could be better. I'm sure there's a better way to do this, and chose that way, and had some amazing birds. So I just feel like all of you who do find healing in other ways and then go on to do what you did, even more amazing preconception planning for your birth. How is this going to go? What do I need to sort out? What do I need to fix? You know, it's just, then the only thing then is how to keep saboteurs out of your space. point inviting obstetricians and midwives after you've prepared so well, inviting obstetricians and midwives to your birth, just the common or garden one, is going to sabotage all of your great work and sabotage the future health of you and your little one. So once you've gone down this route of optimizing your birth preparation pre-conception, then whilst you're pregnant, the only natural conclusion is that you have somebody in your space who's golden, not interrupting. Equally, I've seen the same beautiful outcomes for people that have no one there at all, other than their loved ones.
Yeah. Unassisted birth, that's not anything that's outside of anyone's capacity.
No.
But again, I think it's the fear of the unknown is what trips up most people.
100%. Which is why, my commitment, that's why I became a midwife in the first place, not to sabotage, even though that was my training. Fortunately, I undid that as quickly as I was trained in it. But it's to be that safe pair of hands and a heart to hold, who occasionally might need to do something really useful in the birth space. But it would be nice if you had that spare pair of hands just in case to, for some people that spare pair of hands is a distraction, but for other people that spare pair of hands in another room outside the door drinking tea and having a slice of cake or knitting is all they need.
And everyone should have the right to that as well.
Yeah.
So you're going to be coming on tour. I see that you're on the road to getting a lovely, is it Bertha, the bus?
Her name's Frida.
Oh, Frida, Bertha's like.
Frida, the big birthy bus. Yeah, I set it as an intention, and then I thought we could get her together. And now I'm thinking perhaps I will ask some of the organisations that like to throw money around. It's the right time of year, I think, to see if they can help me, because absolutely she is essential. She is going to house me when I'm waiting for birth, carry on doing podcasts and feeding my course and looking after my course participants and my mentees and my colleagues, all of you that are out there that are birth nerds. I'm a birth nerd.
Yeah.
I'm part of the birth nerd club, not just because I'm Kemi the birth keeper, but I'm a serious nerd. Yeah. So, to meet with other birth workers, birth keepers and parents that are interested in physiological birth. You've heard it here first. I'm about to apply for physiological birthday. So I'm going to choose which day that is of the year, see what it clashes with and create a national day for it.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm about to do that because I think the more of us that talk about it, be about it, the more it will reach the ears of those that will be birthing in years to come. So what you and many others are doing at the moment in healing our history around childbirth by recreating a new way of being pregnant and giving birth. I want to enhance that. I want to amplify that so that the next generation can get it.
Absolutely, because it really is going to create such healing for generations to come. And I think it's not just about the pregnancy, it's not just about the birth, it's about that whole life that you have as a mother, that that your child has growing up to become their own person.
Because once you've done this, and especially with your background in nutrition, I'm very excited about what you see. I have a link with somebody who has managed to get her children into their teens without ever having an antibiotic or ever seeing a doctor. So I idolise her. And so every time, I complete care for a family around things around childbirth and postpartum, I then hand her name over for when they start her children weren't vaccinated. So everything that could happen to them, every sting, stomach upset, headache, fever, she has a herbal or complementary remedy for it. Her children are still here.
Yeah, they're still alive.
They're still here.
Yeah.
Well, they're actually they're the healthiest children I know.
From that continuity of what you do in your pregnancy and then your childbirth and then your mothering and parenting, it's like childhood illnesses, all those things. It's like there is, again, reclaiming all of that.
Yeah.
Supporting the body in ways that before the pharmaceuticals came along was how we supported the body. Food, herbs, homeopathy. Within your own work now, you're offering like a range of services so people can work with you to do the birth keeping work, whether they're in person or virtually.
Yeah.
Let us know about like how you are supporting.
I'm also trying to see what I like as well, you know, what really suits me. So I've got a few things out at the moment, and I think they might all stay out because I'm enjoying all of them, but you never know. But one of the things that I think is really important is as people transition from being groomed and having a low bar set for their birth experience, I offer myself as a virtual birth keeper for families, and it's really working well. And there's been a few babies that have been born now with me as a virtual birth keeper. So a couple of them were born with me on the phone or available on the phone. They actually didn't want me. They thought they want me more than they need me. And then once they got into the flow of their birth, they didn't need me. And I just got a phone call during the birth of the placenta and one of them, and afterwards for the other. So.
Oh, that's lovely.
Then I've been virtual birth keeper for some who've then had a physical hands-on doula to hold the space, who then liaises with me and asks me questions if they feel out of their depth about anything, but they don't usually. You know, I've had a couple that say, oh, is 3 hours too long for a placenta to be retained? And then I asked a few questions and I said, oh yeah, she'll cough it out in a minute. And she did. So.
She'll cough it out. Yeah.
So I've been like that. Then there's some people who have me alongside of their NHS care. So how it tends to go. So I say to them at first, I say, you know, you're probably going to need to call me to debunk every appointment you have. And then they think, oh, Kemi, you're so negative. And then like, after every appointment, I say, oh, I'm too fat, my baby's going to die. And, you know, it's like the stuff. I literally have my head in my hands and okay, well, make a list of that. We'll talk about that at your next appointment. And we have virtual Zoom appointments. So then, yeah, just debunk all the rubbish. And every single one of them has benefited them to have had me. And so they've made different choices towards their labour plans and had different labours and called the midwives later and stuff like that. So that's had really home births. It's been lovely. So yeah, I definitely found my piece of that. It's definitely something that's going to be there for a long, long time. Happy with that. I'm actually going to visit next month one of the virtual babies who was born on the west coast of Mexico. I'm going to go and squeeze him next month.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I see, it's just like keeps me alive. A lot of people that qualified as a midwife with me were out of midwifery within 10 years of qualifying. Really? Some within 5 years, yeah, because they're working in ways that are just not sustainable. Whilst me, I only ever do what I want. So it's amazing. So that's why I'm still a midwife. There's another thing that I offer, which is power hours, which I'm very, very proud of. So, and now Power Half Hour is out as well. Yeah. So that's a real rise. Like, okay, right, tell me what now? You know, it's like, and then I might send some links afterwards. Powerful. So I'm really proud of those. People that I've never spoken to will book them, and then we'll have an hour or half an hour to flash out some points, send some links, put another spin on things. You know, like somebody called me the other day and said, oh, they told me my baby's going to die because my waters have gone for more than 24 hours, so amniotic fluid. And I said, okay, well, how many weeks are you? 41 weeks. I said, you know that if this had happened 10 weeks ago or even 7 weeks ago, they'd be pleading with you to stay pregnant until you're at least 37 weeks. And that could be weeks, 10 weeks, 8 weeks. Yeah. So them telling you that you can't be pregnant for another 24 hours because you haven't done 41 weeks, I said, can you see that doesn't work? And they go, oh yeah, penny drops. And I said, and are you aware that what your risk actually means is instead of you being 99.5% safe with your baby, you know, you're now 99% safe with your baby. That's the difference in the percentages. It goes from 0.5% risk of infection to 1% risk of infection. I said, and what's the risk? Infection. What do we do with infections? Treat them. So you're okay. So once I put the different perspective on things, the huge exhale comes, then the oxytocin can rise again instead of adrenaline, and they might go into labour. Whilst if they carry on being frightened into stuff they don't want to do, they'll end up needing it because adrenaline is too high for them to go into spontaneous labour. I'm enjoying power hours and power half hours. And it's like, powerful.
The reason why you call it that, the power hour, because I just think, oh my God, I'm just thinking of so many people that can benefit from that.
That could benefit from it. It's amazing. I love them. And I see their books, I just get very excited.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then I've got Queen classes, really interesting, really good value because it's a group class. So as many as come along, and it's fun, and there's breakout rooms, get the good conversation going, and there's scenarios, and I give lots of examples, and there's video clips, etc. So it's a Queen class. It's a lot packed into 2.5 hours, and they're very, very reasonable. And I've got
and anyone could do them, as in they don't have to be a birth keeper, or it's like open to everyone. That's like
if it interests you, come along, because like the one I had one on Sunday, the first one, so we were a bit nervous, me and Julianne, my VA, very nervous actually, but it went really, really well. And it was about ruptured membranes. So parents came along because they might have had friends or loved ones that had the whole membranes have ruptured, everyone's going to die scenario. And then they've got, we had birth keepers and a midwife in there, doulas, because they want to be able to advise their clients well. So they came along to learn for that reason. So it's a really good class. So the next one's on membrane sweep, because a lot of people think, oh, so what's wrong with that? Someone's fidgeting with your cervix. Well, it can't be so bad.
I know.
So I'm going to tell people the truth about membrane sweeps.
And you also are now are you mentoring birth keepers also?
I am. It's my newest baby, so I'm always nervous when I start something new, but I just try and listen. I literally try and listen. Like, fortunately, I've bought myself a lot of space to be able to meditate when I want to, and follow down rabbit holes when I need to. And what kept coming up from doulas and NHS midwives is like, they know they're in the wrong place, but they're not quite sure how to get to the right place. So with the doulas are like the best people to have in a birth space. So, but they kind of think, but why it's wrong for me is because I keep watching Sabotage and it's hurting me. So they want to transition into being the birth keeper. And we used to think to do that, you'd need to go on a midwifery training, but you don't. You don't. In fact, when you go there, you're going to learn all the wrong ways to do stuff, like use Roberts for shoulder dystocia and all that silliness. But Roberts is where you're on your back and they push your legs right back to your ears. It's like, why would you do that when she could just turn over, do it herself? Like, it's so silly. Yeah. So and dangerous as well. With the broken clavicles, the clavicle bone can happen to children when we're doing all that silliness. So the birth keeping is so that I'm now going out on a limb and saying you can skip the NHS midwifery training, just go into these one-off courses. Reteach the Breech by Dr. Stuart Fishbein, Molly's course, Molly O'Brien's course, Biomechanics of Birth. There's so many courses you can do to kind of create your own school for birth keeping, and then you go in there and people say, well, it's a bit haphazard because we're so used to this formal thing, certificated, etc. But I said, you can't hang your hat on that, because you've got all these certificated, registered midwives and obstetricians absolutely sabotaging people's health in the birth space. You're going to be much better than that, but you won't be buying into this whole system of the degrees, etc. But what does it mean if you're still going to be somebody who's on a register as a midwife, and you're still going to cause a huge blood loss because you've given a uterotonic for a natural birth? So if you put an injection in somebody who's had a natural birth of their baby, then you go and inject them and start swinging around on their placenta by the umbilical cord, you'll cause a heavier blood loss than if you just left her alone to cough it out herself.
Yeah.
So and the birth keepers go into the room not doing that silliness, so they're better off. They're better in there than the trained midwives.
And I think the thing is, we've been so groomed to be like the good girl and to go along with what the system says, or we'll slap your hand. And it's like I can hear people watching now or listening, and they're like, but am I allowed to have a birth keeper? Like, am I allowed to do that?
Yeah.
Is that possible?
Yes. Because the birth keeper doesn't go in trying to be a midwife. I don't need to put my hand inside a woman to know what's going on. So I don't need to do vaginal examinations. I don't need to listen to the baby's heart rate to know what's going on. But if the parents want to know what's going on, they can pick up the Doppler that's in the room, or the fetoscope that's in the room, and listen for the baby's heartbeat. It's not the first time they're doing it, because they would have been doing it all through the antenatal that they're having with the birth keeper. So, it was, who was it, Ford, that said, if you say you can and you say you can't, you're right. Yeah, so I think it then goes back to belief systems. Yeah. And that then goes back to, there's an adage that you give birth how you live. So if you seriously, so you're a prime example. Yeah. So if you are compliant and outsourcing, I know I might sound a bit judgmental, I'm not, because I was that person, right? Yeah. If you're compliant, you're outsourcing and whatever, then you're going to do the same thing for your pregnancy and birth, and you probably get, the thing is, they do go hard at sabotaging birth. If I go in with a broken arm, chances are, they'll set it, it will heal well, I'll come out fine. For some reason, people go in healthy with a healthy baby and come out broken when it comes to maternity care. Yeah, it's different. It's not great. So, and people say, "Oh, you're so nasty, Kemi. How can you say those things?" Because it's true. You won't have a scar on your uterus. It's very unlikely. 5 out of 100 women actually genuinely need medical help when giving birth. 5 out of 100, right?
That's such a little percentage, isn't it?
It's tiny, isn't it? You wouldn't believe it by looking, because at the moment we're nearly like 50% cesarean, like surgery. So of course people are going to say, can I give birth without obstetricians and midwives? Because they think, oh, well, supposing I need surgery and I'm sat there, I'm one of the 50%. They don't realize that we've got those high figures because of obstetricians and midwives. Yeah. If we didn't have them running your show, you'd be at the 5 out of 100 people that need medical help, 2 of which might need a cesarean. It's all about what your belief system is. If you really believe you're fallible and capable of having a baby, you will manifest that. Yeah. If you feel that you're perfectly capable and able to give birth, but you don't quite do the preparation like you did with the preconception and during the birth, then chances are higher, but not very high. There might be 10 of you out of 100 that didn't really prepare, but left alone, had a baby without medical assistance. But when you do the preparation, preconception, get your mind right, dig up all the stuff, all the mother stuff, all the witch wound stuff, everything. You just take, literally open the wound, pussy wound, open it and let it come to air, let it clean. If you go into your pregnancy lighter and just spend that time eating really well, like keep talking about her all the time. You might know of her because you're in the same field, Lily Nichols. She made a book, Real Food for Pregnancy and Real Food for Gestational Diabetes. So, dig into what you're eating and why, and, what you're not eating and why, and then the kind of movement for preparation, because it's a very special thing that you're doing. And then you've got the amazing support, because you can do all that. But if you've got a frightened husband or frightened partner, again, it undoes all the works. Yeah, I know. So I'm making it sound complicated, but it isn't really. It just does take energy because of the system that we are in. Yeah, at the moment, we're navigating. But like I've heard you say before, how much energy and time and money do we put into preparing for a wedding? And really, this is what we should be getting ourselves ready for. Like this is the thing. And why do I be investing in? Why do I use that? This is back in 1990. I spent 13,000 on a wedding. Now that's nothing for what's spent now. But back then it was a lot of money, right? Yeah. I spent 13,000 on my wedding in 1990, and I spent 0 pence on my birth preparation. And it's my birth that ended up impacting the rest of my life, because my marriage ended after 10 years. Yeah. So, you know, what was lasting? It was the birth and what it did to the bonding between me and my son, and how we've had to rebuild it, and how it impaired our health, and how we had to rebuild that. Like, it's a no-brainer now. I wish if I had my time again, I would do it better. Yeah. So basically, my learning is what's driving me. And, yeah.
So let everybody know where they can find you.
You can find me literally in love with Instagram, and I hate that, because you know, I hate that I love a social media platform and stuff, but I do. I love the images, the jokes, the colours, the fire, the intelligence, the knowledge. There's so much about it that is rich, and so I hang out there. I just have no time for Facebook now, which is a shame. I might try and resurrect an interest in it, but I adore Instagram. Also love Telegram as well. But you'll find me on Instagram at Kemi Joy Johnson. That's my @. And on Telegram, I've got a group which is unmoderated and quite fiery, called the Kemi Birth Joy Johnson Tribe.
Yeah. I must join that.
Are you on that?
No, I need to join that.
Oh yeah, go and find it. Yeah. It's fun. It's fun. So that's where you can find me, and other places I pop up from time to time. And I'm just really grateful for you to sit and listen to me. I feel like I've not stopped talking since. Well, I'm either talking or coughing. So.
Well, I'll link to all of your pages and everything, so people can find you and connect with you, and get your services into their life, because your work is truly life-changing on every level, and it's just so beautiful to witness. So thank you for being you, and for everything that you're doing.
And link my clubhouse as well, because that's my amazing things. That is, but it's not mine. I'd share it with a few other birth keepers. And fire.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.